Good morning. Hello and welcome to Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Church in Pasadena. Welcome to all members, friends, and guests. Neighborhood Church creates and grows an inclusive community of faith connected by love, spirit, and service. We acknowledge our presence on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples, the traditional caretakers of the lands and waters of this campus. We honor the elders who lived here before, the indigenous peoples today, and the generations to come. My name is Taylor Chazen, and I am a member of your Board of Trustees. Today is led by our interim minister, Reverend Dr. Teresa Cooley, with music by Dr. Zenaida Robles, accompanist Wells Lang, and soloist Adrian Benuelos. Please take a moment to silence your devices as we begin our service. Based on guidance from our COVID safety team, masks are recommended, though optional, for congregants inside and are optional outside. During the 9:30 service, there will be a mask-only section of the sanctuary, which will be marked in the rear corner of the sanctuary. Families with young children are welcome in the sanctuary, the narthex, or also in the Cole House in the family room. A few announcements. The Neighborhood People of Color meeting is today at 1 p.m. in the dining room. Search Committee Cottage meetings are underway. Be sure to find a time and topic that works for you to share your thoughts about our next minister. The Esperanza home building trip signups begin today on the patio. The board meets this Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. in room 21 for anyone who is vaxxed and boosted, and on Zoom for any and all. Congregants are welcome to observe. The meeting this month will discuss ministerial responsibilities, the Truth and Reconciliation renaming, and the Loop social justice recommendations. Reverend Teresa will be offering a workshop on adaptive leadership next Saturday afternoon from 1 to 4:30 p.m. It will be both in person and online. Please sign up following the link in the announcements in your order of service using the QR code. Reverend Teresa will also be available with her books on the patio after service if you are interested in getting a copy. Today is the last day to sign up for a chalice circle on the patio. Signups will continue online through the end of this month. We are happy to announce a return to in-person, face-to-face, mask-optional meetings here on the neighborhood campus or in members' homes. For those of you who cannot make evening meetings, there is a new daytime chalice circle that meets at noon on the second Friday of the month, facilitated by Audrey Vaughn. If you are new to chalice circles, you can pick up an information sheet at the sign-up table. Find your most brilliant self and join our small group ministry. Our order of service and more extensive announcements are now available as a link in the Sunday email posted in the narthex or through the QR code on the back of your hymnal. You can always get more information on these and many other activities at the welcome table. Again, welcome to Neighborhood Church, whoever you are and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. Welcome to this inclusive faith community connected by love, spirit, and service.
know it's a warm day, but let's go ahead and warm it up even more by greeting one another. Stand up, move around. I know I started this. Great to see everybody. We are here to do the work of hope, remembering the past, remembering ourselves, imagining our most possible future for this life that teeters too often on the edge of forgetting. We belong to each other. Bring all you are, every shadow, every light, every hope, every fear. For this radiant hour, come. Let us be hope for one another. Come, let us worship together.
Our opening hymn is number 103 in the gray hymnal. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing hymn 103. For all the saints, we will sing verses 1, 2, and 4.
Good morning. I'm Matt Vasco, the Director of Religious Education. May we please have all of the children and youth up for a story for all ages. Welcome, guys. Come on down. So I've got a very sweet, interesting, I'm going to do this. I've got a very sweet, interesting book today. And it's one of these books that kind of breaks adults' hearts, right? Because it's actually about like how the world really works. And this one's about acceptance. And the story is about how we can't choose who accepts us, but we can choose to be accepting ourselves and to open our hearts to others. And the name of this book is Nerdy Birdie. It's a story by Aaron Reynolds with pictures by Matt Davies. This is Nerdy Birdie. His glasses are too big. His wings are too small. I like how he's like checking out the T-Rex there and going, yeah, maybe I'm related to him. His arms are really small too. He's allergic to birdseed. When all the other birds are hanging out together at the bird feeder, Nerdy Birdie is scrounging for breadcrumbs. Eagles, cardinals, and robins are the cool birds. The eagle has wind tunnel tested head shape, abs of steel, impressively sculpted chest muscles. The cardinal has a glossy red pompadour, a glossy red attire, and tail feathers that are also glossy and red. And the robin has beady eyes with superior worm vision, TM. Worm-fed physique and feet, nothing to do with worms. 3 things eagles are good at. 1, hunting. 2, fishing. 3, football. 3 things cardinals are good at. 1, singing like a rock star. 2, posing. 3, attracting fans. 3 things robins are good at. 1, picking on worms. 2, insulting worms. 3, eating worms. 3 things Nerdy Birdie is good at. 1, reading. 2, playing video games. 3, reading about playing video games. Eagles, cardinals, and robins don't care about reading. Nerdy Birdie says, hey guys, I just read the coolest book. And they're all like, who cares, bookworm? I eat bookworms for breakfast. And they don't care about video games. Hey guys, I just defeated the Earthworm King in World of Wormcraft. Who cares, nerd? I eat real earthworms, not digital ones. One day, eagle flew off to hunt. Robin flew off to terrorize worms. And cardinal flew off to impress fans. And Nerdy Birdie was alone. One thing was clear. It was awfully lonely not being a cool bird. But then he hears a voice from up here, and it says, Why do you even hang around with them? And it's a yellow bird, and that bird says, they don't even like you. Nerdy Birdie says, but they're so cool. The yellow bird says, trying to be cool is exhausting. You should hang around with us. Nerdy Birdie says, us? And a big group of birds up on the wire, all wearing glasses, say, us. After all, there's always room for another nerdy birdie. There's a bunch of nerdy birdies. And they have t-shirts that say, I heart to code. And life of pi, but it's the symbol for pi. Their glasses were too big. Their wings were too small. At least half of them were allergic to birdseed. They all liked to read, and most of them liked to play World of Wormcraft. They were exactly like Nerdy Birdie. And then he realized something. There were way more nerdy birdies than cool birdies. And now they were all his friends. See, and isn't that a lovely story? And then we go, the end, and it's a happy ending. But that's not the real world, right? That's not how the world works. It's not how the world works. See, Eagle, he didn't have any friends because eagles hunt alone. And Cardinal was always showing off. He had no friends. Know why? Because he was always showing off. Robin was too obsessed with worms to make friends. One thing was clear. It was awfully lonely being a cool birdie. But then a new bird moved into the neighborhood. It's a big vulture with a little lunchbox that says, official Hello Birdie lunchbox. The cool birds were unimpressed. Hey guys, she gives me the creeps. Why does she always wear black? It's so depressing. She eats what? The cool birdies flew away and left Vulture alone. Why would you want to hang around with them? Being cool is exhausting, said Nerdy Birdie. You should hang around with us. The new bird says, us? Us! After all, there's always room for another nerdy birdie, right, guys? And all the other nerdy birdies are like, hold it, say the nerdy birdies. Where are her glasses? Where is her lightsaber? Have you heard what she eats? Blah! She is most definitely not one of us. Nerdy Birdie was confused. But there's always room for another nerdy birdie, right? That's the problem. She's not a nerdy birdie. She's just weird. Nerdy Birdie looked at his flock of friends. The telephone wire was packed with them. He looked at the new bird sitting there all alone, and one thing was clear. It was awfully lonely being alone. This is Nerdy Birdie. His glasses are too big. His wings are too small. This is Vulture. She wears contact lenses. Her wings are enormous. Vulture eats dead things. Nerdy Birdie does not. Nerdy Birdie likes video games. Vulture does not. Nerdy Birdie and Vulture don't like all the same things, but they really like each other. If you ever need a friend, you can hang around with them. After all, there's always room for another birdie. And here's a big bird saying, hi, I want to make new friends. The end. And that's the true story of inclusivity, right? It's up to us. It's on each of us individually to be inclusive. That's how inclusivity works. All right, thank you so much, kids. We're going to sing you out to your YRE classes now.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Joyce Wesseltoft, and I'm here to introduce the Share the Plate recipient for today. I'm on Share the Plate Committee, and I'm also on the Reproductive Justice Interest Group. It's not a committee, it's just an ad hoc group that we're trying to get some synergy with on those issues. As you know, each Sunday, we share the plate we expand our impact by dedicating 100% of our offerings to a local social justice organization. Excuse me. This week, our gifts go to the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project, otherwise known as WRAP, W-R-R-A-P, which is the largest national, independent, nonprofit abortion fund. We provide urgently needed financial assistance nationwide to individuals seeking abortion services or emergency contraception. WRRAP's Executive Director, Ms. Sylvia Gazarian, has prepared a video to tell us about the important work they are doing. And in addition, we have a table outside after the service if you want to get some more information and sign up that you're an interested party. That would be great. If we can have the video.
Hi, everyone. I am Sylvia Gazarian, Executive Director of the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. I want to give a big thank you to all of you for allowing me the opportunity to discuss our organization for your Share the Plate collection today. WRAP is the largest national independent nonprofit 501c3 abortion fund, funding medical and surgical abortions in states across the U.S. Headquartered in Los Angeles, we work with a network of over 700 clinics, doctors, and hospitals. Joyce Shore, our president and founder, started WRAP over 31 years ago to ensure that all marginalized individuals can access abortion care and emergency contraceptives. As the largest national abortion fund, we are working to keep up with the influx of funding needs of patients. Abortion care that used to cost $500 now costs $1,500. In addition, we fund the abortion pill by mail. This has dismantled a huge barrier for those in areas where access has always been a challenge, and going to a clinic meant traveling over 100 miles. So I ask you to be generous today to help support patients. Before I leave, I want to share with you a story from an OBGYN. Her story is the same ones we hear at WRAP each day. I have been an OBGYN for almost 17 years, and I would like to invite you to come into my exam room just for a moment to listen to the stories I have heard. I can't afford to feed my children I have now. I fear for my life. I went into heart failure with my last pregnancy. My tubes were tied. I never intended to have more kids. I am alone. I was raped. I am 13 years old. I have breast cancer and am getting chemotherapy. My baby has multiple anomalies. I'm worried I will kill myself if I keep this pregnancy. I don't want a baby right now. I don't want to be pregnant. The truth is, it should not matter. You don't need a reason other than this is your choice. Your donation today will make a tremendous impact on the patients we serve. It will change their lives and, for many, save their lives. Please give today so we can fund more patients in need of abortion care. Thank you.
Please give generously as the plate is passed, or through the website, text to give, or the QR code, pardon me, or the box available at the exit. Sorry, remnants of COVID. If your donation is toward your pledge, please note pledge in the subject line or use an envelope available at the box outside. And please come visit us at the table to indicate your interest in this important issue. Thank you.
which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. I who have died am alive again today. And this is the Son's birthday. This is the birthday of life and of love and peace, and of the gay, great happening illimitably earth. How should tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, breathing, and be lifted from the know of all nothing, human merely being, doubt unimaginable you. Now the ears of my ears awake, and now the eyes of my eyes are open.
I think E.E. Cummings would be proud. Let us join in the spirit of prayer, meditation, reflection. Let us ground our bodies and open our spirits. Thou, I smile when I say it, thou, meaning all that is inside me and outside me. Sometimes a tree, sometimes mountains, or the running doe, or the leaping heart of a finch held between my palms, or a child's hand, no bigger than a tulip flower, with no space in it yet for fear, resting in my own. Thou that listens to our tentative and doubting dreams, thou, hear us into certain song, how we are touched by the lives of our neighbors and our kin, by their sorrows, healing, and hopes. In a silence we carry with us all day long, we whisper the names of our people, broken and healing, with us and separated, struggling and reborn. May we all be held by someone, by something like hands enfolding the pulse and the flutter of a bird, gently, carefully, and slowly opening. Thou, let it be so. Amen.
Imani is the seventh principle of Kwanzaa. It means faith.
Good morning. It is so good to be with you all this morning. My name is Ginger Fury, and I am the Membership and Communications Manager. I am still smiling from our new member ceremony just a few Sundays ago. I hope you have taken the time to get to know our new members as we settle back into this year together. If you are visiting us today, please make sure to stop by the welcome table out front so we can say hello to you. When new members make the decision to join as a member of Neighborhood, of course, there's the commitment to our UU principles. But we also talk about the expectations of time, talent, and treasure. You have probably heard us talk about the treasure piece. That would be things like pledge drive, dining for dollars, pass the plate, all extremely important aspects to keep the church moving. But the part we don't talk about as openly is time and talent. The beauty of a UU congregation is that each is unique. While certain programs and structures may look familiar, what you see here is because of you. I want to just pause for a moment and say that again. What you see here is because of you. You have made a commitment and a conscious decision to each other, and in some instances, the larger community. Teachers ensure that our youth have guidance. Friendly greeters make sure our visitors know they are valued. Folks passing the plate means that our community nonprofits receive the funds that they need. And this list goes on and on. Neighborhood is fortunate to have a program staff, and we are eager to share our professional expertise and to support and guide you in building and maintaining this community. But we cannot do it without you. I recognize that the demands of life, particularly nowadays, pull us in many directions. The world does look different than before. Perhaps you are feeling discouraged or unsure of how to participate. That is okay, and it is normal. Neighborhood is at an important point in its story, post-COVID and in search of a new senior minister. We need you, as you are able, to recommit to each other and the health of this community by stepping up to volunteer. You don't have to be perfect at it, and you will have myself, Matt, Reverend Teresa, Zenaida, and so many others supporting you always. But ultimately, it is up to you. I will wrap up with a quick story that I love. During my college years, I worked as a public school second grade teacher's assistant. A lesson that I did with the students was about the journey of our food, from the farmer planting the seed, to the harvesting, loading on the truck, going to the grocery store, ultimately ending on your plate. In typical second grader fashion, the children would challenge me to see how far back we could trace this particular item. As you might imagine, this went on for a while. The lesson, in essence, was that we are all part of this interconnected web of life. Does that sound familiar? I am here to remind you that by sharing of yourself, you have a profound impact on neighborhood and beyond these walls. Please find me on the patio after service or email me directly to learn the many ways that you can leave your impact here. Thank you.
Many of you may not know that I've known Ginger since she was 6 years old. She grew up in the Hartford church that I served, and that's not why she's here. She's here because she's incredibly talented at bringing people together and keeping us informed and communicated with, and so I'm sure she'll be able to help you well find a way for you to be involved. Thanks, Ginger. A number of years ago, I had the privilege of visiting India with a number of other Unitarian Universalists. We were going to meet some of the indigenous partners of the Holding India Fund, which is a UU institution which seeks ways to support local organizations that address India's most entrenched injustices, of which there are many. One of the partners we visited was Vidyak Sansed, the primary organizer of Shram Blvd Sanghadana, a union which has operated for decades in the state of Maharashtra. In India, unions are not necessarily tied to a particular profession like they are here, but instead they're organizing instruments which help support any community that's trying to organize against its oppressors. So in the course of this time, we met with a woman who had labored for years as a custodian in a Hindu temple. The temple priests had the attitude that people should feel privileged to work in a temple, and so they barely paid them a living wage. In fact, these workers were starving and living in abominable condition. And so they asked for the help of Vidyak Sansad, and he stepped in to help them organize. But his way of doing this was not to step in and lead them. His way of doing it was to give them the skills and the courage and the fortitude to do it. This was not a risk-free undertaking for these workers. In fact, they knew that they were putting their lives at risk. In one of the first protests that this group organized, the woman that we met with was beaten so badly she lost her uterus. And you could still see the scars of a booted footprint on her forehead where the police had kicked her. But she and her group persisted. And she is now the equivalent of a city councilor in her district. And the wages of these temple workers have gone up 450%. Shramjeevi Sanganata has also built schools for girls who have no access to education. And they run an after-school leadership program for kids who have nowhere to go when school is let out or sometimes have no school to go to. We visited this program where we saw kids learning how to march together and doing maneuvers that looked really militaristic to me. And so I asked the host, why are you teaching them this? And he said, it was so that they could learn how to move together as one, because they needed one another to survive and to thrive. Incidentally, a group of these children organized in their school to protest the fact that their teachers were stealing their state-provided lunches from them. And this protest reached the powers that be, and their lunches were restored. A group of children. So since that visit, I have thought a lot about what made these efforts so successful, despite the people's total powerlessness in how we would typically define power. One of the conclusions that I've come to is that they learned an entirely different understanding of leadership. There wasn't just one person who inspired and led these revolts. Those who did lead did so with the understanding that they could not do it alone. Just as they taught in their after-school program, they knew that they needed to move together as one, and they needed one another to survive and to thrive. It has taken us in the West a long time to be able to start to take on this understanding of leadership. We typically fall into the trap of believing in the idea that leadership is lodged in one particular person who leads us to peace or prosperity or whatever our fantasy goal may be. You've heard me talk about elements of this in different ways over the course of our more than 2 years together, that the leadership of this church is not located in me. And I hear a repeated desire from many of you to do a deeper dive into what leadership might be in this way. And so that's why I'm offering the workshop on adaptive leadership next Saturday. But I realize that it's been a while since I first preached in a more complete way about this to you. And in fact, looking back, it was only the second sermon that I delivered to you in July of 2020 when we were still online, and a few weeks later led a workshop online. But there's a few things that have changed since July in 2020. A number of people have come back to the church after absences. A number of new people have joined. So those of you who memorized my sermon from 2.5 years ago will simply have to suffer through parts of it. I have always been fascinated by the subject of leadership, possibly because people often pegged me as a leader. More precisely, they have often pegged me as bossy. In high school, it was widely assumed that I was headed for a career in the law, and the only reason that didn't happen is that I took a constitutional law class my first semester in college, and I realized how little power you actually have as a lawyer to change things. And changing things was very much what I wanted to do. After being disillusioned by working in the political sphere for much the same reason, I hit upon the idea of ministry, which at the time seemed to me a great way to help change people. I would like to say that I quickly learned that that's not, in fact, the purpose of ministry. But more honestly, I have to say it took me a number of years to learn that. A number of years with some limited success and some notable failures. Luckily, I came upon this theory of adaptive leadership shortly after these experiences, which helped me understand why this way of thinking about leadership and change wasn't particularly helpful. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the concept of adaptive leadership, I'll give you a quick crash course. It was first developed by Ron Heifetz of the Harvard Business School, and since there have been a number of practitioners and writers who have broadened his theories. And one of the primary concepts is this: leadership is not a noun. Instead of thinking about leadership as being something that only particular people with particular leadership skills can do, they flip the concept and talk about leadership as a verb, something that we do together, that everyone can practice leadership, bringing various skill sets to bear on whatever it is that needs to be done. They also help us to look upon the problems that face us differently. Some problems, they say, are just simply technical problems. You just need to find the right person with the right expertise and the right tools to fix it. When the air conditioning breaks down, especially in a heat wave like this, we know who to call, and we mostly can trust that it will be fixed or at least replaced with something that works better. This is what they call a technical problem. And solving this assumes not just that you have the right tools and the right people, but sometimes that we have the money for this venture, which leads us to what they call adaptive challenges. Adaptive challenges are those things before us that don't have easy answers, cannot easily be fixed. Sometimes we don't even really understand the depths of the challenge in front of us, let alone how to fix it. So let's look again at that question of finding the money to fix the air conditioning in the context of the church. I just learned that it would cost $300,000 if we had to replace our air conditioning systems. So what if we don't have the money to fix that if it happens? Why don't we have money in reserve for just such things? Do we have people among us who might help raise the money? And if so, how do we motivate them? What might help us get to the point of raising even more money to create the kind of reserves that we do need when we have big problems to fix. This is sounding rather familiar to the board, who have been grappling with this adaptive challenge. And we have, in fact, developed some reserves, but not enough to get us through a major crisis. Adaptive challenges like this are not solved. Sorry to break that to you, board or finance committee. There is not a special leader who has all the skills to get us to that magical point. It requires any number of us with a multitude of skills to come together to make progress on the adaptive challenges that are before us, just as we've been doing in the last year or so. Progress has been made, but the challenge doesn't go away. And I know that my ministerial leadership has only been one small part of what we have all had to pull together to do. The next minister you call cannot fix it for you either. This isn't the only adaptive challenge that we have before us. There's the challenge of how to grow as a community in light of the cultural distrust of institutions. There's the challenge of how to make real impact on a deeply hurting world in need of justice and healing. Just a couple of the adaptive challenges in front of us. So leadership in this kind of context is necessarily a shared enterprise. When we become aware of this, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. We've just come through a period of history that has made us realize that much of what we've been able to count upon is not a guarantee. It feels like everything has been questioned. Adaptive leadership calls this disequilibrium. Most of us just call it kind of terrifying. But the good news is that sometimes this disequilibrium can help motivate us to make the changes that we need to make. And they call this productive disequilibrium. In this context, this is the job of leaders, to hold us in a place where we can feel assured of some things that still sustain us, while not letting panic overtake us, or a nostalgic laziness to stop our progress. And so to do this means that we have to recognize that our leaders are going to constantly disappoint us because they cannot simply fix what is wrong. The job of leaders instead is to disappoint people at a rate that they can stand. Welcome to my world. So to take this into the realm of congregational leadership, it explains why it's so difficult for leaders to feel like they're disappointing the congregation, because it is often the people we love most whom we don't want to disappoint. And yet that is inevitable. As church consultant Gil Rendell helps us to see, people will ask for change, but not necessarily the inevitable losses that come with the change. But change we must, particularly in these times that Gil calls post-aberrant. We're beyond needing just technical changes. Our times require the innovation of post-aberrant times. And if you're starting to feel exhausted and despairing right now about the Sisyphean task of rolling this rock of institutional change up the hill, let me offer some seeds of hope and excitement. Because what this kind of change requires is not stepping off into a complete void, but staying focused on a purpose that is greater than what we are doing today, that is greater than just making the individuals among us happy. As Gil says, when problem solving is the dominant agenda, energy and hope leave the room. Sitting in yet one more problem-solving group deflates leaders. Can I get an amen? However, remembering and staying connected to our purpose energizes leaders, and subsequently, hope grows. With hope and with the companionship of other purposeful colleagues, courage grows. As Unitarian Universalists, we ought to be uniquely suited to act upon these principles of leadership. We already have these as part of our basic principles of how to approach religious life, that we must take responsibility for our own religious growth, that we cannot accept that all truth has already been revealed or that there are easy solutions, and we have to equip ourselves to respond to changing realities and find meaning amidst that change. That all people have the potential to be leaders in different ways at different times, and all voices should be heard. These are our core principles as a religious community. But alas, we often get as lost as most people when we confront these big adaptive challenges. UUs often bring extremely talented technical skills with them, making it difficult for them to admit that some things cannot be solved. And sometimes our purpose is not always crystal clear, and we can get lost in the abyss of trying to make everybody happy. And sometimes, I know this will sound strange, we have trouble letting other people be leaders, because that means we need to learn to follow them. See? It's possible. It's possible. I believe in you. So before we lose hope again, let us return to that adaptive wisdom of Gil Rendle. Remembering and staying connected to purpose energizes us, and subsequently hope grows. With hope and with the companionship of other purposeful colleagues, courage grows. We have such an important purpose here, to create a community guided by love, spirit, and service. And the only way to do that is to do it together. We are all the purposeful companions. Just as those school children in India have learned, we need one another. We cannot do it alone. We are all leaders in this community, coming together looking for ways to serve. So let us hold open that door to service and step through the threshold together. Amen.
Our closing hymn is number 298 in the gray hymnal. I'm just constantly taking notes. And I'm sorry, I just really quickly, one of the things that resonates with me so much is that I love to practice being a follower. That's why I play in bell choir. If you didn't know, I love not leading. It's really great. It's awesome. And we have so many great leaders among, there's so many people who can lead. It's so fun to follow sometimes. Will you join me? Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing hymn number 298. We're going to follow Wells on Wake Now My Senses.
Our benediction comes from Maya Angelou. Each new hour holds new chances for new beginning. Do not be wedded forever to fear. The horizon leans forward, offering you space to place new steps of change. Amen. Go in peace.